Hello everybody, welcome to Regal Rebellion ranks every boss in Cuphead from easiest to hardest. This ranking is based on obtaining an A+ ranking on regular mode, because getting that S rank on some bosses in expert mode is insane. Keep in mind, I am not ranking these fights based on first encounters with these bosses, but rather having beaten the game and returning to each fight to achieve that A+ perfect rank. This is my opinion based on my experiences with these fights, so your experience may be different than mine. Without wasting any more time, let's begin.
Number 1. Goopy Le Grande. Goopy is literally a blue bouncing ball of snot that bounces around trying to infect you, but you're not having it. Roundabout works well here, but Charge Shot can kill him even quicker. He will occasionally throw a punch that is sometimes in your direction, but simply duck under it and you'll avoid taking damage just fine. Goopy appears to be stunned by your ability to dash under him. Once you've done enough damage to change his phase, he will spawn 3 parryable question marks as he grows in size. You better hit all 3 because those are the only parry options he has. Even though he's bigger now, the strategy is the same. Goopy bounces around, letting you destroy him with little fight, an act he appears to love immensely. He throws bigger punches now, but you can still duck right under them. When you kill him, Goopy is so surprised he keeps fighting from the grave. This one's a masochist. He appears as a tombstone and proceeds to move horizontally across the screen, stopping every third pass to crush you. Simply dash past each time he does this and you hit him repeatedly with spread or charge shot. You would think evolving from a blob to a tombstone would do something to buffer Goopy's health, but you'd be wrong. Keep that fire button pressed down and he'll be dead again before you know it. Number 2. The Root Pack. I was tempted to make the Root Pack my number 1, but the potato hit me once unlike Goopy when I was getting footage for this A+ video, so I said alright, you can be number 2. You start your Cuphead adventure in about the most exciting way you could think of, fighting against a group of vegetables that are tired of getting eaten. The first is a dirty potato who spits out clumps of dirt followed by a pink parryable worm. That's all he does though. I use Roundabout through most of these fights as it does good damage and has the longest range, but you can use anything really in this fight. If you kill him before you get all 3 parries, don't worry too much. You'll be able to parry one of the onion's many pink tears that follow in the next phase. I recommend getting all on the potato however, as the tears aren't always the easiest to parry. If you have a super built up, he will cry himself into a casket in no time. This phase is a complete joke. The final Vegigon killer will appear to be none other than a mad carrot who summons offspring spiraling towards you, followed by Mind Rays. Spread Shot works well here to kill all the mini carrots heading towards you while damaging the boss, but it's not too hard to dodge any of his attacks anyways. The Root Pack is appropriately placed first on your path, as he is arguably the easiest boss in Cuphead. Number 3. Cagney Carnation. Cagney starts off with the sweetest appearance you'll see in this game and follows that up by making the most maniacal face and setting the newest trend in dance moves that I'm surprised Fortnite hasn't picked up yet. Once again, Roundabout works very well for this fight. Cagney will start by turning his face into a sprinkler and dropping his spawn from the sky onto you. One will be pink each time he does this, and make sure you parry it, otherwise it turns into an orange flying nuisance that spits out projectiles at you throughout the fight. The other pellets will grow into small munching enemies that you should get rid of right away. Spreadshot is good to take care of all of them quickly, but anything works really. Cagney also will shoot his face out at Cuphead either on top of the platforms or below them. Simply be in the opposite area and get out scot-free. His boomerang attack can simply be ducked under if you don't feel like jumping, and the 3 nuts he shoots at you shouldn't be a problem either. The final stage will have Cagney become an enraged Super Saiyan. I'm guessing he's related to Broly. He stretches a vine across, forcing Cuphead to stay on the platforms, where you should have been the majority of the fight, as by now you should know Cagney's face is the only area that can be damaged. He will uproot 2 platforms, so jump to the open one. When he spits pollen at you, it will occasionally be pink. Make sure you don't kill him before you reach your parry quota, as he is just a flower and goes down quickly. This is the only Gallia perfect score that you don't care to see, as you want to keep coming back to see Cagney's amazing arm animations over and over again. Number 4. Vernor Vermin. You don't meet this German rat until aisle 3, but that doesn't mean he's hard to beat. I personally liked Lobber for this fight. Vernor has 3 attacks in his first phase, and none of them are difficult to dodge. He can catapult nails and other garbage in a direction that will have several pink parryable options that you should take advantage of. He can also spit tomato bombs towards you that will explode horizontally. If you jump toward them after they explode, you won't get hit. His other attack is him literally charging towards you in his can of soup. You can parry the pink springs to jump over him or smoke dash through him. Once you do enough damage, bottle cap saws will appear on both sides of the screen and will move toward the center randomly. Lobber still works good here, but if you're below while he's dishing out his fire attack on the above platform, they'll fall short, which is why I preferred spread shot for this section. You can move onto his cart and really wreck him when he's attacking the above section. Just make sure you move out the way before he comes back down. Sometimes the cap saws on an entire side will spin out at once, so beware of that and jump to the opposite side. Simply treat that rat like you did Chef Boyardee when you were younger and devour him. His final stage will have Vernon get eaten by a cat. During this phase, wooden pallets fall vertically from the ceiling as the cat paws at you from either side or summons ghost rats to lob orbs at you. These are sometimes pink and where you will need your last parries from. Just keep Spreadshot on that cat's face and use EX attacks, and you'll kill his last stage in no time, revealing that the cat was really Vernon the entire time. Number 5, Raybian Croaks. These Street Fighter wannabes are about as tanky as you'd expect a frog duo of Ryu and Ken to be. Ken sprays firefly bugs at you that will take their sweet time to fly down. Use Roundabout or Spreadshot to wipe them out. If Ryu attacks first, he shoots out boxing glove Hadoukens that have exactly 3 pink ones. These can be difficult to parry all 3 on their first shot, so make sure you slow your shooting down to avoid moving forward if you haven't reached your parry quota yet, as you won't have any parry options later on. When you dish out enough damage on one of the frogs, they roll towards you, signaling the second stage. Here, Ribby, I'm assuming he's Ribby as he's dressed up like Ryu, so Ribby shoots bouncing planets towards you while Croaks turns into a fan and allows the attempt at getting you hit. Simply time a dash away from the bouncing ball and let yourself be pushed back to avoid the next bounce, and repeat this the next several times it happens. Roundabout here is the best because no matter where you are, you'll be hitting one of the 2 brothers. After you do enough damage, Ribby rolls on back to his brother and fuses into what you would expect 2 Toads to become. You guessed it, a slot machine. Here you have to parry the pink handle, but it doesn't count towards your total, so hopefully you listened and got all those parries earlier. Parrying the knob makes the slot machine mortal and able to take damage. The 3 symbols will tell you what obstacle will be sent your way: Frogger, Devils, or Tigers. Froggers are the easiest as you simply jump over green razor blade platforms. Devils are pretty simple also. These ones will shoot a blue laser beam vertically upward or down, so just jump and duck accordingly. Tiger balls were the most annoying in my opinion. They shoot orange orbs out of each platform and you have to time your jumps accordingly. If you have a super built up, he won't even have a chance to use 2 of these attacks, and you'll walk away with that A+ in no time. Number 6, Hilda Bird. I've heard that some people think plane bosses are the most difficult parts of the game. I found them to be the exact opposite. Parrying is made easier in the plane, and you know having only 2 weapons that you have the most effective arsenal equipped to face any boss. Also, dashing becomes even more useful in all the plane fights, giving Cuphead a boost in speed and maneuverability, and decreasing his size, making avoiding hits much easier. Anyways, this is the first plane boss, and it is inevitably not difficult. Throughout the majority of the fight, Hilda will send mini blimps at you that shoot bullets, and occasionally they are pink. The green blimps shoot out a multi-shot, and I've never seen them issue any parryable options. As for the big blimp herself, Hilda starts off the bout with 2 moves. She either blows herself up to even bigger proportion and thrusts herself at you, or she spits out a laughing ha attack, both of which are easily avoided. When you do enough damage, Hilda has 3 celestial transformations that she can choose from, and you will see 2 of these each fight. On normal mode, I think she always starts with her bull transformation, where she hovers vertically and charges at you horizontally. As long as you aren't at the same level as her, this attack will always miss. It seemed for me that if you stay at the top of the screen, she'd never attack that high, which let me drop bombs on her all day, quickly knocking her out of this form. You will also face either her twin Gemini form or her Man-Cupid Sagittarius form. Neither pose much of a threat. If you face the twins, she will drop a spiral cloud that shoots pellets in a circle. Stay back until this starts shooting, as it can start from any spot and can spin either clockwise or counterclockwise. If she turns into a man, like a lot of women nowadays, she will launch an arrow at you accompanied by 3 blue stars. It's easy to dash below all of these and keep firing. You can switch to the bomb weapon and blow up the stars as they will swing back towards you, or you can do what I did and just straight up ignore them, as they leave the screen quickly anyways. Once all her forms are beaten, Hilda will get the worst migraine you've ever seen. This signals her final form, where she turns into a giant crescent moon taking up half the screen and sends constant yellow stars, sometimes which are pink and parryable. There are also UFOs that shoot damaging tractor beams down with infinite range. These spaceships happen to be color-coded, which will tell you whether to hang back to avoid their attack or dash forward. Red dash, brown hang back. It's as simple as that. Before I learned this mechanic, I used to actually think Hilda was difficult because of this phase, but now she is just another failed Hindenburg for the record books. Shoot a couple more EX attacks and she'll go down, and you'll have that A+ you've been dying for. Number 7, Captain Brinybeard. We're still in easy boss territory, despite pulling another Aisle 3 boss, but this guy just isn't worthy of being any higher. Don't get me wrong, I am a fan of this fight. The boss design and the way he turns up the attacks in conjunction with one another as you damage him makes this a fun encounter. I run with Chaser for this fight, as the strafing barrel no longer distracts the bullets from Briny himself. Charge Shot also works really well here and does more damage. At the start, you only have to worry about the dropping barrel along the top and Briny himself spraying pellets of, I have no idea what they are, but they're often pink, and hitting your parry quota in this fight is a breeze. Also, you get charged up so often that you can use multiple supers and EX attacks.
which helps take him down even quicker. Once you do enough damage, Blackbeard will summon denizens of the deep to aid him. There are 3 possibilities that will happen. A shark will swim past and bite most of the ground, forcing you right to the boat. This particular can become difficult, as around this time, the boat will start chewing up and spitting out cannonballs at you, and now you're right in its face. When you learn the timing of this attack, it won't matter if you're right in the front or far away. The other options of sea creatures are an octopus spewing ink that will black out your screen. Most people say to kill him right away, but he never bothered me much. When I first played, I spent so much time and energy dodging this attack as I thought each black pellet did damage, which would make this fight much harder. The other option is little dogfish coming out barking across the dock towards you from the boat. If too much is going on for you to handle, simply take a moment from firing against Briny and kill the fish, otherwise jump over them, avoiding the barrel during the whole fight. Despite all that, as attacks and grouping them together, they are all pretty easy to dodge. Briny's final stage has the ship take over and his pink worm tongue spits out swirling orange energy blasts at you. The barrel is still here, so be sure to avoid that when the ship does his only other attack, which is a large pink ray that blasts a large part of the screen. You can easily duck under this or apparently parry on top of it until the attack ends. If you have any cards left or are super, this phase won't last very long and you'll walk away with that golly a perfect score. Number 8, Jimmy the Great. Oh look, a plane boss. As soon as you enter Isle 2, the first boss I go to is this 50 phase boss fight little bitch. Jimmy starts the fight with one of 3 attacks. He can shoot out Egyptian swords, kittens, or precious jewels, all of which will give you parry opportunities. The swords were the easiest for me to dodge and get the parries on, but none of them pose much of a threat. This stage ends quickly and Jimmy fades away, turning himself into pillars that are protected by spinning saw blades. Switch to your bomb variant and blow his scummy face away, but don't get too eager or you'll fly into one of his saws off screen. The next stage has Jimmy bring his sarcophagus into play, where his mummified corpse is actually a disgusting tongue creature. Here, he attacks with planets and ghost mummies. I always have my super saved up for this phase, and after a few more shots, he transforms yet again. This time, he comes back as a Mugman version of Pinocchio, and this real boy better stay away from Riku if he wants to keep his heart. This phase has Jimmy's hat appear as well, and it is constantly moving towards you, shooting projectiles at you, while Pinocchio shoots out energy bullets from his finger. Some of these are pink, which is where you'll need to get your remaining parries from. Once you shatter his hopes of being a real boy, he disappears and comes back again, but this time as himself, taking up half the screen. There's also a triplet of pyramids rotating around you that shoot off quad beams that you better position yourself to not get trapped in. This is the hardest part, as it is often delayed shot, which causes you to be in a bad place to dodge, which 2 seconds earlier had been a perfect place. I heard some people say that you can smoke dash horizontally or vertically through this attack, but every time I tried it, it put an end to my perfect run. Other than that, Jimmy shoots mind rays out, they're easy to avoid. Pummel his big head some more and you'll get that A+ of a score. Number 9, Grim Matchstick. Yeah, I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for this one. I haven't seen too much about Cuphead boss discussions, but I have seen some talk that Matchstick is one of the hardest bosses. I don't really see it. The key to this fight is Lobber, and my second weapon is Roundabout, of course. I use the ladder in the first stage and slowly attack as to not do too much damage to him early on. This stage is the only place you can get your parries. He starts off with the triple sonic attack, which the last one will always be pink. If he does this after you damage him some, he'll shoot out 4 beams instead of just 3. The only other attack he has is his meatball fire breath that isn't a problem to avoid. He will occasionally wiggle his tail at the bottom of the screen and shoot upward, so beware of that. Make sure you switch to Lobber after you get your parries. After you bully him, he'll fly away and spit out little fireball men that jump sort of awkwardly. They jump to the open clouds that you'll soon need to jump to, so your best bet is to jump after they've already made their move. You should have a super built up, which makes this phase end quickly. Matchstick's final phase has the green dragon darken the skies and reveal that he's really a Hydra, so keep cutting off those heads, baby. Here, he only has 2 attacks, but one is a little tricky to avoid. He spits out fireballs that break off into a crossbeam of 4 separate attacks. If your shots connect with him, so yeah, don't let your shots connect. The only other move will have one of the heads turn into a fire hydrant, blasting flame in the middle of the screen, so take care to stay at the top while this happens. Just be cautious with your jumps and keep firing like all the other bosses, and you'll get that A+ against this green dragon with not much of a problem. The only thing I can see that's difficult about Matchstick is the jumping element of the level, so if you master that and stop causing your own demise, you'll beat him easily. Number 10, Sally Stage Play. We're still not at hard difficulty boss fights just yet. Sally's first stage has her jumping around and dropping diagonally. If you stay put, you'll dodge her exceptionally. Spread shot is the best here, as you can stand right next to her and blow her away. That's what she said.
I also run Charge Shot on this fight, as it works well later on. She will occasionally blow a pink parryable Heart Kiss that you should parry, because she only has one other attack in her last stage to get your quota. The only attack she has throughout this fight that might hit you is when she disappears like Thomas Wayne at a play, but then reappears from the sky on top of you. This move tracks where you go across the stage. Smoke Dash will help you avoid any damage. Her next phase has her more or less do the same thing with the added element of being outside a nursery, and the babies are not having it that they're a part of this ensemble. They throw their bottles at you, which seem to leave an area on the stage where you can still take damage if you jump on it right after the bottle breaks. Sally can now summon Ratigan the Rat and his streaming hordes of mice along with him during this part of the boss. They come out in twos from both sides of her, but they are easy to jump over. They also happen to rotate to the top of the stage and drop on you with the baby bottles. There is never too much dropping where dodging becomes difficult though. If you feel overwhelmed, make sure you use your super during this part to shorten the time you have to avoid the crying babies. Sally now transforms into her own stage prop. This is the easiest part of the boss. Just park under her ass and unload with Spread Shot. That's what she said again. When the struggling stage prop wave comes by, you can break the meteor and parry the pink star, which apparently counts towards your quota. Or you can do what I do and smoke dash through it. You'll kill her out of this part so quickly she'll barely get to use her lightning attack. Sally's final stage has her floating horizontally across the top of the stage while roses fall and an umbrella spins on the ground, constantly chasing you. Some of the roses will be pink, and you'll likely not be at your quota yet. However, the pink roses come so far and in between and in such inopportune moments that I found myself stalling the first stage to get the 3 heart parries and not having to worry in this phase. You kill all her other stages so quickly you don't have to worry about missing the time restraint. Anyway, with Charge Shot 4 hits kill her, so boo her off the stage and get that A+ ranking. Number 11. Baroness von Bun Bun.
The only reason this boss is so high is because of the parry opportunities. The Baroness of Delicious Candy sends out her tasty treats to do her bidding for the majority of the fight. She has 5 henchmen, and you will face 3 every battle. There's a Jawbreaker followed by a Mini-Me with the least amount of health I've ever seen, a Chocolate Waffle Man who breaks himself apart and attacks in a multi-directional attack, a Candy Corn who dies extremely quick and leaves behind mini Candy Corns in his wake as he moves horizontally across the screen, sometimes moving from the ground to the platforms. There's also a Gumball Machine who spurts out gumballs that fall from the sky, another very easy fight. The last minion is what I thought was an ice cream guy, but on second thought is definitely a cupcake man who jumps diagonally before stomping down, leaving a ripple of frosting in his wake. The problem in this fight is that while you're destroying your Candyman like the fat kid when he first enters the chocolate factory, the Baroness will start to send little jelly bean soldiers after her first henchman is defeated. They're sent fairly frequently, I guess, but you have to wait for the pink ones to parry, which can take time, and if you're too busy dodging an attack to parry one, you'll have to wait even longer. Time can be a factor in this fight. I stick with Roundabout with all the fights here, but that shouldn't be a shock. I run that weapon often. Once you have your parries and her Candymen are dead, the Queen herself will come after you. Except all she does is chase you with her castle that doesn't actually move across the screen while she throws copies of her head at you. Stick with Roundabout and keep doing damage. When she shoots her pink mint rolling across the ground towards you, parry it because it counts once towards your quota. Make sure you don't just save your super for the last portion of the fight, and if you do, you better use another EX attack on her. You know how frustrating it would be to finish a boss perfect just to see on the report card a 5 out of 6? Yeah, don't do that.
Number 12. King Dice. This gambling man is pissed he lost betting against you, and now you must beat his blocky face in too. Parrying the dice moves you across the board. It can be weird the first couple of times, but it then gets very easy to land where you want to. There are several HP ups along the way that I don't bother going for unless it was already on my set boss I like to face. Oh yeah, did I mention each tile on this roulette is a mini boss you have to fight before you get to the dice man? I used Roundabout and Chaser for this encounter. You have to fight at least 3 of the mini bosses, but it ain't no thing. Most of these mini bosses are about as tough as Von Bonbon's Candyman, but with a bit more HP. I hear people like certain bosses on this table, but I always thought going 3, 6, 7 was the easiest. Or boss 8 is very easy as well. 3 has you fighting a cigar that has a decent bit of life but has no attacks you need to worry about. You jump across from ashtray to ashtray and stomp the cigar out, building your super in the process. I like boss 6 because like I said, I like plain bosses. Maybe I just learned the mechanics better for those fights, but they're all easier than normal on the ground battles to me. Is this fight a horse betting on horse racing? You're in a plane on this one, and all you have to do is avoid the cloaked jockey who will fly up at you when you gallop past. Other than that, the main bookie himself will shoot out a hat that fires horseshoes out at you, one of which is always pink. Since your super is built up, the boss will be at half life from the beginning, and his easily avoidable attacks won't even proc many times before you kill him. Slot 7 as you fight Pirouette, a spinning lady with legs of every girl whose thighs touch wish they had. But like why? I never even understood why they wanted a thigh gap. Anyway, you still have Smoke Dash equipped as other charms all suck.
Smoke dash through her legs when she spins towards you and completely avoid the mechanics that were meant for this fight. Slot 8 has you fight a magic 8 ball that is probably even easier to kill, so it's a great spot to land as well, but I was not running charge shot or spread shot on this run. Finally, you'll face off against King Dice, and as long as you know how to parry, you'll beat him with ease. He drops his hand and moves it like he's making shadow puppets, but all that comes are some cards marching horizontally that are often pink, and you'll have to parry to avoid the other black ones. I never usually had issues parrying throughout this game, but I swear for this fight, if I'm even close to a black card, Cuphead cracks. Maybe it's just me, but I seem to be getting hit sometimes, even when it appeared to be a perfect parry. With Chaser equipped, hold the fire button down the whole time and you'll have to juggle parry maybe 3 times. After that, you will never come back to this stupid fight. Even though it can be aggravating restarting this fight for how many things you have to do before you get back to the Dice Man, it didn't take me near as many tries or leave me nearly as frustrated as most of the remaining bosses. Number 13. Walle Warbles. We are starting to get to the tougher bosses here, although I never struggled too much with Walle. Walle is a big bird who likes to spit out Yoshi eggs. Like, what did he do to Yoshi, that son of a bitch? They split off towards him after they explode in a trifecta of eggshells. If you stay strafing the left edge of the screen, you'll never get hit. Walle has tons of parry opportunities, so don't get yourself hit going for every pink chick that comes flying by. His other move has his head become 3 fingers, blasting off 3 fists in your direction. Soon Walle will start shedding its feathers that fly all around the screen. This part can look scary, but just focus on what's near you and you'll dodge all the feathers fairly easily. Always keep firing. That should go without being said. He'll probably get to do this attack twice before you knock him out and destroy his home, revealing his son. This baby Walle has a laser gun that shoots pink parryable blasts at you. He also is surrounded by several eggs that rotate, moving in and away from him. Clearly this is a plane fight, and always remember you have 2 weapons. When the bomb is easier to use, you should use it. Not only because you'll hit the boss more, but the bomb is stronger too, I'm pretty sure. At many points in this phase, it makes more sense to switch to the bomb, so do so. When you kill his son, Walle shows up again, raw and being helped by 2 nurses. Every man's dream. Use the bomb weapon still, especially for the EX attacks. The only real threat here is the paramedic bird closest to you that spits out pills right where you are flying, so don't fly there. There are a couple other projectiles flying towards you as well, as the other paramedic pops pills too, and Walle belches out random crap and garbage in your direction. This is the hardest part of the boss. Hold down the fire button so you're hitting him with the bombs at all times and focus on dodging. When you put him down for good, you'll feel real good about it. 14. Dr. Call's Robot. I know, how the hell could I put this OP fucking robot on the list already? And honestly, I'm not sure he deserves to be this high even, because 14 is pretty good. During my first time playing Cuphead, sure this guy was quite intimidating, and he had a ton of attacks that can hit you. But when the time came to get footage for an A+ perfect run, I knew how to avoid everything. It took me a few attempts to get the footage, while some of these other bosses above and even some below like Walle took much longer. Unlike most bosses previously, Dr. Call's hardest phase is right off the gate, so if you mess up here, it's not much time wasted or agony felt when you restart. His first stage has a constant 3+ attacks going on, so it can be tough to dodge everything. I take off the bottom belly section first. Each time you take out a section, he starts a different attack from there. Instead of making the fight easier, it may make it harder. The bottom will go from launching strafing ships to now shoot the black bomb guys that plague the next stage as well, and have a larger AoE attack after detonating than you think. But if you hit them with 1 bomb, they explode. Make sure you get a couple parries from the middle section before you destroy it, although there are added new parry opportunities in the final stage. I don't like having to rely on that, however. The top laser section is easier to avoid than the alternative cannon that shoots gears all around when the laser gets wiped. Dr. Call will also start incorporating other attacks, either a magnet that can screw your rhythm and leave you prone to the black bombs, or his hands that reach across the center screen and shoot a few blue blasts that are no problem to dodge on their own, but in combination with everything else may be tricky. Once all 3 sections are gone, he'll still be launching those last 2 attacks along with the gears and bombs, but his heart will be exposed. I hope you saved your super, because with a couple extra shots after that, this phase is done, leaving the last 2 parts of this fight that as long as you stay poised are quite simple. One warning, as you transition into this phase, do not be at the top of the screen as his head launches immediately going left across the top and reappears at the bottom going right. Every time he enters the screen, a black bomb will show up. Equip your bomb variant and blow them up as they appear, along with dropping a bomb and dashing away from the head each time you see it. When you've wasted the Iron Giant, the last phase of the fight begins, which has the Dr. Robotnik wannabe reveal himself finally. It can be the most visually frightening portion of the fight, but like Walle, it's just a bullet hell phase. Dodge the crystals flying towards you and keep firing. Don't bother looking at the boss, look at Cuphead and you'll likely be hitting the boss while you're avoiding all the projectiles.
If you have all your parries already, as I recommend, you don't even have to worry about breaking your rhythm to parry a pink crystal. As long as you don't let your stress get the best of you, this mad scientist is a goner, and you'll end up with that perfect score. This is actually one of the coolest fights in Cuphead.
Number 15, Rumor Honeybottoms. This boss fight is a bit tough and makes you dread the rest of Inkwell Isle 3. You start this fight against one of her policeman bees with random worker bees flying slowly around the play area. The problem I think most people have with this fight is the constant rising screen, forcing you to always be changing your position. I imagine the same people who hate Matchstick hate this fight as well, although this fight is definitely a bit trickier. I always have Roundabout as my secondary, as it seems somewhat useful in almost every fight, although I will tell you Charge Shot makes more sense for this fight. The main here has to be Chaser, that way you're always hitting the boss. Anyways, the cop drops bomb clusters that shatter into stingers that are parryable. The parry stingers always spawn shooting in the same direction every match, so you can position yourself in the best place to get the parries before they even detonate. Next comes the Queen Bee herself, and really the only thing that may make it hard to dodge her 3 attacks is the climbing element of the fight. She can either send out 2 pink orbs that can be parried strictly as a dodging maneuver, a triangle pyramid thing that launches parry beams from its tips exactly 3 times, or there's bullet bills that climb the screen. It seems somewhat easy to bounce across the chain from each side of the screen if you have trouble dodging the bullet bills, as jumping to avoid them often resulted in me hitting the one above. You'll probably want to reach your 3 parries from the first section because you don't always see the triangle attack. Despite all this, Rumor never feels like she poses a real threat. Just climb the honeycombs and keep firing your chaser shots. I switched to Roundabout to do more damage when possible, but if you were smart and a quick charge shot, that's even better. Rumor's last phase has her transform into a 1917 fighter plane, where she hangs out at the bottom of the screen and chainsaws a large portion of the play area. You can see this attack coming as she leans to the side she will attack from, so move to the opposite side. She'll constantly send punch attacks out of her thrusters, so don't hang out in front of those either. With some EX attacks or a max super, this final phase won't last long, and you'll be at that perfect report card in no time. Number 16, the Devil. Being the last boss in the game, I expected a little bit more from the Devil himself. Then again, he is top 5, so that is pretty good. As expected, I ran Roundabout for most of this fight till the end where I switched to Spread Shot. The Devil has a wide variety of attacks, and there is no way you'll see them all in one go-through. He can turn his head into a spider that tracks you and drops down on you. This attack isn't difficult to dodge. His snake attack has him stretch his neck and move his head horizontally across the screen, leaving a small safe area on either end. When he becomes Tom Brady and takes his goat head form, I time my jump and dash move to avoid his arms. It sounds difficult, but I rarely messed up the timing. Apparently you can duck under this attack. I tried it only once and it didn't work and never attempted again, since the jump dash isn't hard to pull off. Remember, throughout this fight the Devil's little henchmen show up, alternating which side they come from. They never really cause a mishap with dodging the Devil's array of attacks though. He has 3 more possible attacks that each have parry opportunities coupled with them. I've seen them called 4, 5, and 6, because he creates either 4 balls that bounce around, 5 fireballs, 4 of which rotate around the center one, or 6 fireballs that hone in on your location and shoot one at a time. One of these on each attack is always pink. The toughest of these attacks to avoid is the 6th attack, but if you have enough practice with it, even that one becomes manageable. The other 2 are very simple to avoid and get the parries on. As I'm sure you know by now, you can only damage the Devil's head, so you'll find yourself standing right under him, shooting Roundabout upward. This strategy works great until he changes phases and undresses in front of your very eyes. The skeleton can hit you if you're still standing in the center like I originally was, so make sure you move to the sides. And not too far, because the closing walls of fire will appear and make you jump down the rabbit hole. But you don't show up in Wonderland, because you're going to hell. The remainder of the fight occurs here with you fighting a giant devil head. If he pops a pink bomb bat from one of his ears, make sure you parry it, not only for your quota, but because it will explode in a few seconds across half the screen, ruining your perfect run. He also spawns floaty axes that spin around and can hit you for acting instinctively. During this whole hell stage, poker chips are constantly falling down on your ever-diminishing platforms. You'll find yourself jumping and dashing into things unnecessarily many times that make you want to break your keyboard. I always super this stage right off the bat, and he quickly spawns his Batman. These guys appear on both sides of you and burp up skulls that can be pink. There are mini versions of them around the top of the screen that swoop down as well. There's a lot of shit here to dodge, but turn to Spread Shots if you haven't yet, and it'll help keep some of the floaty bats at bay. Keep doing your damage, and the final part of the boss is next. It is just the Devil crying because you beat his hairy ass. Be careful not to jump into a tier and ruin your perfect run when you're avoiding the poker chip, dropping down onto the single platform left. Also, the tiers are pink, so there's another chance to get parries. Mop the floor with his whiny little face, and you got that A+ on the Devil, baby. Number 17, the Phantom Express. Now I know a lot of people think this boss is easy and probably will call me trash for putting him this late, but I couldn't lie on this list, and this fucking asshole had me screaming at my monitor for over an hour. He isn't that hard to beat, but when it came time to perfect this boss, I finally felt like I was in hell. Like for real, there were moments I was about to punch my monitor and call it a day. I was ready to be the next Deller, and it felt good. The Phantom Express drops his eyeball bouncy balls at you, which can be easily hit for the most part by jumping with Roundabout. This whole fight pretty much has stupid floaty Halloween themed guys dropping parryable objects down on you to move your cart and potentially fuck you. I guess I just suck at parrying or something because these shits were causing me to get hit so many times throughout my runs. When he turns into the skeleton, I found myself trying to use my super on him just to get hit by his turning head when I'm nowhere near it. You can be in front of the hands and avoid damage, but again, you'll have to jump and do damage and hit the flying parry options out of the sky before they get you killed. I had tried Roundabout with Spread Shot and Charge Shot for a while, and was still getting hit every run. Finally I said fuck it and put on Chaser and played super safe, just to perfect him, but not in the time requirement, and had to be a little more aggressive. My only strategy that worked for this fight was patience. When you kill the skeleton, 2 round saucer heads pop up with little life that shoot electric bolts across the screen. Smoke dashing works, but can be dangerous, causing you to fall off the platform. Also, this phase spam spawns ghosts that drop damaging parry options, which can be a nuisance if this fucker is the bane of your existence like it was for me. The last phase of Satan's Express has the boiler room open up with a parry tail, where you can do damage to the heart for a short time before it closes up again. There is a boomerang attack in spraying fire embers, but it's not too hard to avoid this section, at least for a short time. Charge Shot kills the heart in 4 hits, but with the stress this guy induced on me, it shaved years off my life, and I had to use Chaser still, which made this part easy. The challenge of the movable platform restricting you to a third of the screen, the mass exodus of parry ghosts, and just the Phantom Express's unrelenting multitude of phases left me with no choice but to rank him near the top of this list. If I graded purely on my struggle, this boss would undoubtedly be my top spot. So hopefully, with a lot less agony and yelling, you'll derail this train and never have to fight him again. Number 18. Beppy the Clown. The only other boss that made my neighbors think I'm a raging psychopath was Pennywise himself. This fucking clown should not be so difficult. On my second attempt, I got to the final stage, unblemished, and literally hit him with the shot that ended the fight, but simultaneously got hit by Beppy spitting out one of the penguins. I said, okay, he's clearly not as hard as I remember during my first playthrough. That makes sense. I have never been more wrong in my life. I proceeded to try again to get that far for over an hour, where I began to question my sanity. Honestly, Beppy won't be this hard for most people's list, but he deserves to be right here on my list. This was tied as the most frustrating fight for me. His bumper car phase is a breeze. You can jump over him or smoke dash through him, and hopefully one of the ducks up top will be pink, so you already have 1 parry towards your quota. His next stage, he turns into a balloon, and the roller coaster will now wreak havoc on you for the rest of the frickin' fight. The roller coaster is more of a nuisance than a real threat, but I took damage to the kids on the ride more times than I care to share. Beppy will pump out dog head balloons that will sometimes be pink, but for some reason the pink ones pop with way less damage than the normal ones. I use Roundabout at the first stage and stick with it here, usually because Spread Shot takes forever to kill a dog balloon, which can mess up your timing with dodging them and the coaster and trying to get your parries in. His third stage has Beppy reappear on top of a yellow or green donkey where he does horseshoe attacks. The green one will give you a parry option, but if you're relying on this to reach your parry quota, you'll probably get hit going for it. So what I'm saying is, do not go to this phase until you have all your parries. Going under the donkey's ass with Spread Shot will decimate that butthole, but beware the roller coaster coming from the right. Now you're entering the last stage, which isn't as annoying as some of the earlier stuff, but can be hard to avoid taking that one hit that'll ruin your A+. The roller coaster is on super speed, and Beppy becomes a theme park ride himself. There are platforms to stand on that spin, so it isn't hard to avoid the coaster, but he spits out baseball-throwing penguins that can be tough to avoid without dropping down and getting hit by the coaster, or preemptively jumping to avoid this and jumping right into a baseball. Keep Spread Shot out and use the EX attacks here, and it'll hit all sides if you do it right, hopefully killing him before more penguins come. Apparently you can kill the penguins, so if you have trouble dodging them, maybe it's worthwhile to do so, and after replaying him since this recording, I would recommend doing so. When you finally successfully beat this bitch, you'll feel amazing and probably never touch the game again. Number 19. Calla Maria. The hardest boss in Cuphead is Calla Maria. Shocking that a plain boss is put as my hardest fight on this list. I didn't struggle too bad with this fight, and her patterns aren't that bad to learn. The reason this is my top boss fight is because it is the boss fight that you are the most dependent on luck to actually pull off a perfect run. In her first phase, she has many different attacks ranging from picking up a yellow shockfish or a pink one that sprays mini fish. Be careful that you don't dodge into the big fish in her hand because she will launch it into the open area after the attack finishes. She has a ghost attack that when coupled with some of these others will definitely end your run. The best way to dodge it is by strafing up and down with each wave of ghost, but that can be impossible if there's a ton of fish on the screen that you also have to avoid. She summons a sea of fish that filters across the screen vertically. There are many parry options to this fight, so you no longer need to make sure you get all three here. This sea princess also has sea creature friends, namely a seahorse that is very bad at causing a distraction, and a turtle that launches a bomb attack that breaks off into bullets. When you do enough damage, Calla will get groped by a group of electric eels, revealing she was really Medusa the entire time. She now will have an attack that petrifies you that she uses for the rest of the fight. There's a very small area on the screen that is safe from this attack, but later on in the third phase, I don't know if it can be dodged. The electric eels show back up and spit out electric bits that can be pink. This part can be a bit scary, like the times in Dr. Call and Walle's fight, but just focus on what's in front of you and keep firing. However, if you're frozen by the Ice Queen, you're shit out of luck for this part. You can kill the eels causing less of a bullet hell, but I prefer to keep my attacks focused on the boss herself. Keep blowing her away with EX attacks and her head will pop off, taking you into the coral reef in the final stage of the fight. This is the part that you better hope you get extremely lucky on, or you could find yourself repeating the fight for a very long time. I got lucky for once in my life, and it didn't take much more than 20 minutes to have the right RNG to win this fight flawlessly. In this last stage, Calla shoots out skull heads, and there's a reef that you have to stay in between, along with staying away from the spiky obstacles. When you get stoned by her, you better hope you were in the right position to not get hit by anything until you can break out. Otherwise, you'll have to restart again and again, as I'm sure many people had to. When you finally get the right positioning and kill her and get that golly a perfect score, you know you just got lucky, but you don't care. You beat that cheating asshole, and now all that's left is for you to get S rank on every boss, a task I will probably never do. On a brighter side, despite a few rage spells, this game was a lot of fun and I enjoyed it for the same reason I'm sure many of you did. The old-timey artwork and style and combat simplicity makes it a game I'm sure I'll come back to. I'm looking forward to the DLC that is supposedly dropping soon, and we'll see if some of the new attacks or using the chalice will make any of these other fights easier. That's going to do it for this ranking. I hope you enjoyed it. If you disagreed, feel free to let me know your rankings in the comments below. Please subscribe for more boss rankings and content like this, and I'll catch everyone in the next video. See ya!